What's going on, guys? This is Gibbs, and we are going to be talking about the Rival Series qualification process. And there's been a lot of things going on Twitter about most people don't like the system in some way or another. So I want to give you my thoughts on a way that it could be done. There's plenty of different ways that this could work. I feel like Swiss, very similar to what I am doing, but I'm just doing it through a bracket to make it a little bit easier. And other people think like point systems, and we'll go through those a little bit. First, let's just do my system, and then you guys can let us know what you want, what systems you like in the comments below. But okay, here is my system that I think would kind of work out pretty well. You got 16-team triple elimination. The reason why I like triple elimination more than double is you don't get screwed by the bracket as much. A lot of teams right now, they are losing to two teams that make it to the rival series, but they didn't get to play the other two teams that are, also made it. Sometimes that happens because it's a very easy bracket on one side versus the other. If a one seed goes down early, like we saw this past weekend, that can easily happen. So this way, at least, if you lose to three teams that make it, you might actually rematch one of these teams, but for argument's sake, like, if you lose to three of them, at some point, did you really deserve to be there? And if rival series only has top four anyway, sure, you could have beaten the fourth, maybe, but for the most part, I think that gives you a safe, like, balanced schedule, at least to an extent, where you won't have to play some of these teams. You could wind up playing the same team twice, once in the upper or something like that, and then all the way down in the double lower bracket. That's very possible, but again, that also means they lost to a bunch of other people too. So I think 3 losses is a pretty decent system. The way we get there, I love the idea of having 4 different qualification periods. It gives people time to play on days that they like to play on. I would do that. I would probably make them, so right now they're just best of 3s to top 32, which I think is a complete waste of time, because we get to 128 teams, and 128 teams don't deserve to be playing for the rival series necessarily. It really doesn't matter. We will never see a team that low make it in. Maybe in Europe one day, but still. That's giving them way too much of, like, those tournaments mean absolutely nothing. The only good thing about those tournaments is it's not a feel-good story. It's like, yeah, we made it to play-in, but, like, most of those teams know that they're not really going to go anywhere. So I would love, do the same thing, 4 events. You can sign up for 2. Make it best of 3 double elim up until, like, top 32-ish. Then change it to best of 5. And only the top 4 make it out of each. So that means it's a lot cooler to watch, which means that we could probably have streams up again of these qualification periods, because we'll actually get some really good games, some high-pressure games. And honestly, if you can't make it through double elimination 2 separate times to make a top 4 finish, you probably don't deserve to be here either, because that's 4 losses and you're done. So that gives teams plenty of ample time or ample chances where, sure, like if you're playing bad or whatever, then if you bounce out, you got one other day to try for it. So that's what I would do first. Secondly, I would have a 5th week for play-ins, and this would be the day 1 games here. As you can see on this bracket here, we'll zoom in a little bit. So this is triple elim. This is just like an image, but basically these would all be on day 1. All of this bracket, which would basically means week 1. Like, we would do this the weekend before. So everyone plays these games, and after all these games are said and done, we would be down to 8 teams. When we're down to 8 teams, we would have some people who have 2 losses down here in the lower bracket, like this guy right here and this guy right here. And they are going to have a really hard road to make it into the rival series the following weekend, but at least they don't have to play a ton of games. The most games that you're playing here, and of course, like, this should be best of 5s, is 5 matches. If you lose here, you'll then have to play 1, 2, 3 to make it. I think 5 best of 5s is a decent amount of time, and I hate how this always pops up. I don't know how to hide that half the time, but it's not that big a deal. So that's what I would do. At least it's only 5 best of 5s, and it's not going to tire these players out, because these players are playing a ton in these 128 team play-ins when most of these teams shouldn't even be here anyway. It seems like a waste of time for the best players. So that's what I would do. They will have longer days on the community days or the first 4 qualifiers, but we're going to have long days somewhere, like if you want to make this a completely open bracket. There is options to have a point system through other tournaments and then at least have some people qualify maybe straight into this. That's always an option. I wouldn't qualify too many into this. I do like the any given day mentality. I never like the idea of, all right, guys, let's just do a point system and then these 4 teams are just automatically in the rival series. One that's extremely boring to watch because usually it comes down to there's only very few important games by the end of it. So there would be almost no point to a stream. Like, you have to realize that we still need importance in these games to show on stream. It makes the drama great. That's also why, like, it's 2 different philosophies with North America and Europe, where Europe, a lot of their leagues are just seasons and then it's over. While in North America, we like our playoffs because we want to see that excitement of, like, here we go. You got to play on the given day. So, personally, I like that. I know probably a lot of Europeans don't, but that's just a difference of like, cultures almost in sports. But, so that's what we would have so far. We would have 8 teams remaining. We'd have 4 in the upper bracket up here in match 1 and match 2. So that's what would be played on the day. We would have 1 team from the first lower bracket, 1 and 2. Now, it does get a little confusing, sure, but it's not that bad. Like, if you have to explain this to the viewer, it's not that bad. Like, last week, they played out their brackets, and you have 3 lives before you are out. We have 4 teams left that have not lost a single game. 1 more win and they are in. But if they do lose, they still have 2 more chances on this day to make it. And then it's like, here are the 2 teams that have lost once already. They are down to just 2 lives left. And then we still have 2 teams crawling down there with 2 losses. They have to make an incredible run to make it to the Final Four. It's not that difficult. We don't have to show it on there, whatever. We'll tell you when they're going to qualify. Not the end of the world. So, match 1 and match 2. Those will be the first 2 games of the day. That's the upper bracket. Once they win those games, they are in. The worst thing about triple elimination is that the grand finals are always really weird. Where, like, oh, it could be one team that's won every single game, and then another team that's lost twice, and then that team has to beat them 3 times, but they only have to beat them once. Well, we don't have to worry about that if we have the top 4 making it. So the reason why they're safe, as you can see here, match number 37 would be the finals of the upper bracket. Well, say they lost, they would move down here. This would be the lower final-ish to see who moves on there. Say they lost there, because again, we're trying to see like if it's safe or not yet, so that's match 41. They would move down here to number 41. This is also safe. Now, if we go through the list of why it's safe, here would be first place, like say they won. Second place would be the other team in the finals. Third place would come from here. There's 2 teams here, obviously, but one has to move on. And then fourth place would come from here. Again, there's 2 teams here, but one has to move into that third place game. So that's why they would be safe. So that's pretty simple. They just, like, if you win to the finals of the upper bracket, you are safely in. Right now, it is if you win to this, no, that's exactly the same right now. You would move on to the finals in the double elimination. That's the only time you're safe as well in this system that we have going on. So that's exactly the same for the upper bracket. But these guys can come in fresh. They only have to play 1 game right away. They don't have to be playing for 4 hours before they even start. And then it's like another 4-hour stream or so. So that would make it a lot easier. So we would get 2 teams here. The teams that lose from here, they would move down into match 3 and match 4. This is not a qualification game, but it's a semifinal to a qualification game. So this is where, sure, it's not qualified yet, but they still are alive and all that stuff. Like, these games are probably the least interesting, maybe, because these are hard to say, but it's like 2 teams or 4 teams would have 1 life here. Well, 2 lives left, and if they lose, yada, yada, yada. But you play these matches out, you move on to the finals, per se, we'll say, where these 2 winners would play off, and that's a qualification game. They are safe after that, because, again, they're in this bubble here. Same thing as we talked about earlier. So match 5 would also be a qualification game. Now here's where, like, we might have to extend into 1 extra match. Not the end of the world, but these teams, when they lose down here in the semis, I'll call it. So that would be match 31 and 32. It might be a little hard to read, but just follow along, because it's like, we'll move it in a little bit. But match 31, match 32, they would move down into here. So this is when the lower bracket, the loser's bracket number 2, would start. So these guys would start playing their game. So after 31 loses, he moves down here. He plays this game while this game is going on. And then this loss moves down here. The problem is actually with this, which I didn't... Oh, no, I'm sorry. So this works out. So once he loses, he goes down here. Now this game will start while this game is going on. So that means that this game would finish, and this game would already be finished. They would be ready in that game. If, for some reason, like this game goes quick, a 3-0, and this is a 5-game series, you could just have a little bit more of an extended break here. and not show this game and then go immediately to match 6 if you only want 6 games. It wouldn't be that much longer of a break, but that's a little dangerous, so you might have to add one more game here, so we'd have 7 games total. So this would be match 6, and this would be an elimination game. Wouldn't be a qualification game yet. The loser from the qualifying game earlier is waiting for the team that wins here. And then we go into match number 7, and that's another qualified game. Then you get your 4 teams. Everyone's happy. You don't have like, oh, I had a really tough bracket. Like, dude, you lost 3 times. There's not much more that you can do to say that, like, oh, I had a tough bracket. One thing I don't like, so that's how I would do it. Let me know if you like it or not, and we'll talk about some other systems. I do not like when people don't like the idea of, like, to play, like, you have to show up on the day. Like, it's kind of what Rocket League's about. No matter what, at some point, you're going to have to show up on the day and play well. So I never understood the system of just, like, oh, consistency for the, like, last 4 months. And people think about, like, oh, there's no other big tournaments. Like, there's other stuff to do. There's monthlies going on from other companies and all that stuff. And then there's, like, DreamHack Opens. You could easily go to those. And, like, I think at some point teams are complaining when they're, like, the 25th best in a region. I'm like, guys, if you're 25th best in the region, I'm sorry, there's not much more that the ecosystem can give to a team that's 25th best in the region. Because maybe they're like, oh, I don't want to go to DreamHack because I'm going to play RLCS Talent. Like, well, that's what everyone wants to see, is the RLCS Talent, or the best teams in the world. And if you think that you can play at that level, then show it. Go to a DreamHack where you can win a lot of money if you want. Again, it's hard for orgs probably to represent these teams because they're not getting a lot of fame or anything like that. But again, it's because you're 25th best in North America. No one cares about you. No offense, but no one cares about you. So that's like the hard part to go on from there. So it's not easy, but I don't like the idea of just like, we're just going to keep having league after league, because like viewership is not going to be there for league after league after league after league. So I'm not a big fan of that. But I do like the on one given day. Like here, we'd have 8 teams left. It would be a big deal. You could go in, at least teams have 3 chances, which means you'll be playing a wide range of teams, and you have no excuses there. I get the double elim where you could just lose to 2 of them and there's 2 left. You could lose the 3 rival series team and not play the 4th, sure, but at some point you have to cut it off. So this is what I think of a triple elim. This is basically like Swiss as well, very similar. Swiss is basically this, just they don't show you the bracket. That's really the only difference, because if you have a seeded Swiss, this is how it works. And once you have 3 losses, I would assume you would be out anyway, because you would be too low on your Swiss bracket. So very similar to the Swiss system, but I think this is a decent system. Obviously, it's a little confusing to explain, but like if you go with the 3 lives mentality, I don't think it's the end of the world to do. So there you have it, guys. That's what I think should be done, and that's if it's obviously exactly the same. There is arguments for, let's expand the league out to 10 teams and 10 teams. That's probably the only one that I'm like, sure. I wouldn't mind 10 teams in RLCS, 10 teams in Rival Series. That's not the end of the world. But again, that extends the season by a lot. So that's the tough part. And like right now, it seems like we have a decent system. It's about 3-month-long season. And then there's breaks with like DreamHacks and other tournaments can come into play, which is kind of fun. But that one I can see. I don't like the idea of just like having another league and another league, like a 3rd and 4th division. I never understood that. Like, no one's going to watch those games. And then it also just doesn't allow people to change teams ever, because you'll never want to be 2 steps away from the RLCS. Some people say, oh, like give the best team from that division a chance. But what about all the other rival series teams? Then you have a better road is to go like into the 3rd division and win that, because that's easier than coming in top 3 maybe from the rival series. So not a huge fan of that system, but again, it's all opinions, guys. Let me know what you think would be a good system, and yeah, leave it in the comments below. Let me know if you like my system. You probably don't. That's okay. No one likes any system at some point, but that'll do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. RLCS is this week, and me and Shogun are putting out a lot of videos this week about where we think the pros are. It's kind of a guessing game to an extent, because no one's really playing actively in a public forum, at least. They're all scrimming, so definitely go check those out. But I will see you this weekend for the RLCS. Hope you guys like the new set. We got some more fun surprises coming, And yeah, that'll do it for me. Thank you for watching. Later.